talked a lot on this programme about how best to improve our towns and cities as our society changes, and it's changing in all sorts of ways. Online shopping, of course, but also how we use our cars, how we socialise, when we socialise, and it all affects what we need from our town and city centres. Well, today, experts from around the world are meeting in Belfast to discuss the challenges and opportunities for this city, and we have two of them here in studio to discuss what's worked where they are from, which is to say Paris and New York. We also have one of the organisers of the summit here. So let's chew through the big issues, the big headline banners. We've lost a little bit of time talking about the storm. First of all, our New York and Paris guests, do you have flights booked in the next 24 hours? You do?
Yes.
To
Paris.
To Paris. When is your flight for?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay. We'll stay in touch with you. Okay, all right. Well, let's focus on this for now. It's lovely to have you here. You might get some bonus hours. It's a nice place to be. This is Ariel Palitz. Sorry, you're Ariel, please forgive me. Catherine Gall is from Paris, and yes. Catherine is Executive Director of Chaire Entrepreneurship Territory, which looks at urban planning and how cities should develop and is rethinking the links between the economy, territory and society. Ariel Palitz is the former New York Nighttime Mayor. She led the overhaul of New York's nighttime economy, its public transport, its safety for women, tourists, and the mix of hospitality on offer, which is really interesting. Also here is SDLP Councillor Carl White. Nice to see you, Carl, who's one of the organisers of the Belfast Summit. Can I start broadly, Ariel? Why do city centres begin to fail?
Why do city centres begin to fail? Yeah. I think it's important to understand the value of what a city has to offer and to see it in a 24-hour light. I think my focus is about the nighttime economy and understanding the value that not only nighttime businesses, but life at night can bring to a city, to its economy, to its sociability. And historically, life at night has not been valued as an asset and often seen and treated as a liability, nighttime businesses and culture, and therefore have not necessarily been approached in a way that strategizes how to maximize what it can offer.
It's surprising hearing that from someone from New York, because we've long been told your city doesn't sleep, and yet here we are saying there's more that could be done. Is there a way of measuring how much of the economy pie is cut up between daytime spending and nighttime spending? Do you know that number?
Well, we did conduct an economic impact study when I first came into office as the founding director and discovered that the economic impact and ancillary impact is $35.1 billion in New York and supports 300,000 jobs at night and $700 million in tax revenue. And so I think that was an important study to demonstrate that that nighttime economy is not just a luxury, but a necessity.
Catherine Gall, are we expecting different things from our urban centres now than we did maybe 20 years ago?
Absolutely. And certainly we are looking at major changes since COVID, because we have rediscovered city centres, but also neighbourhood with COVID. We were locked down, locked in, and had the chance to actually do more things locally, which wasn't the way we are living. Today we leave our homes to go someplace to work, and then we come back at night. So
what does that mean practically? That we have more of a desire for the local greengrocer, the local coffee shop?
Yeah, we need a balanced but also neighbourhood with COVID. We were locked down, locked in, and had the chance to actually do more things locally, which wasn't the way we are living. Today we leave our homes to go someplace to work, and then we come back at night. So
what does that mean practically? That we have more of a desire for the local greengrocer, the local coffee shop?
Yeah, we need a balanced, and city centres have become out of balance because they have been designed with monofunctional use. Work, office space, right, or only commercial spaces, or only other activities. And the reality is that all of us need a balanced access in short distance to everything. The work, the school, the commerce, the leisure, the healthcare.
Homes? Do we need
homes
more
as
homes
well.
in
We
city
need more homes. We need a diverse offering, and the work we do in researching proximity is around balancing that, recognizing that all of us have those diverse needs. We also want to have choices. We don't want to be closed down into just one option. We want choices. That's what drives quality of life.
If we accept, and we don't spend too much time talking about the problems because most people can see or feel them wherever they are, and it goes beyond Belfast, of course. Let's look at some of the specific issues. The first one being, can I call it building rot? There are beautiful buildings that are there that are sitting empty. They're quite often owned by the private sector. How do you deal with that? Because I can think of half a dozen of them in Belfast city centre now that are sitting empty.
We need to sell to them a vision. We need to sell to them a different type of vision where they can find value for them from a business model standpoint. So we have to invent new business models where buildings are occupied during the day, but also during the evening and during the night, during the working week and the weekend. So we maximize the asset value of that.
Tell me a little bit about the changes that you made with the nighttime economy, particularly, Ariel, about trying to shift the focus away from just alcohol.
Well, I mean, it happens organically. There are multiple different types of venues. Historically, alcohol has been a centerpiece in order to drive revenue, in order to be able to support other types of, whether it be entertainment, live music, dancing, and so forth. Since the pandemic, there has been a decrease in alcohol consumption, and so venues are looking at different ways of bringing in the revenue that is not necessarily alcohol based.
What are the ideas that have tickled you the most that you thought, that's a good idea, that's cute, it's not alcohol based, but I like it?
Well, I think competitive socialization is a very interesting phenomenon, whether it be pickleball or darts or mini golf or painting, creative arts. I think people are gravitating towards a more social experience rather than just, drinking, and that's primarily it.
It seems for years now we've been hearing, I think the statistics are absolutely true, I have no reason to doubt them, that the younger generations are drinking less and smoking less, and we know that's happening, and surely that's going to have a knock-on effect as they grow up to how our cities work. Carl White, you've organised this. What is it that you're hoping to get out of it, this summit in Belfast?
The Belfast Summit takes place this is the 2nd January, and our focus is to bring global expertise, and that's why we have Ariel and Catherine here this year. Declan, your listeners will be familiar with the problems that Belfast faces, from Tribeca to traffic, and they receive endless media coverage. And I decided, along with the business improvement districts, we were sitting around one day and I realised that I go to meetings all the time where I hear lots of good ideas from people, but those people are never in the same room. So we created the summit to try and bring those people together and bring expertise from Northern Ireland, UK, but also abroad to try and address the problems, but also discuss the positive that we have in our city. And that's what we did last year, and that's what we've done today. And it's thanks to our partners in Ulster University, the BIDS, Belfast Harbour, that we're able to do that, all of whom have a stake in the city. People understand the problems, they feel them, whether they articulate them or not is different, but they understand when they look around Belfast. Dereliction, traffic, these are not beyond the wit of people to solve.
Quite, but what stops a summit like this becoming a talking shop? Because you can sit in there and nod and agree with Catherine and Ariel all you want, but actually when they leave, and God knows Catherine might not be able to leave just as soon as she thought she wanted to, but either way, it's going to boil down to you and your colleagues, isn't it, to start implementing some of this stuff, isn't it?
We work hard at the summit to make sure the decision makers are there today, that they're listening, that they're understanding, and that they're taking the knowledge that we bring to this event back to where they work. I don't think there's anybody that I deal with that actually is going to say to me that everything's working perfectly in Belfast and that we're delighted with it. That's not the case.
Well, but my point is a serious one in that you have to go from the big picture conversation to the next council meeting you're in and start actually making decisions, sometimes hard decisions.
Well, the council is responsible for a lot of the decisions, Declan, as you know, but they're not responsible for other decisions.
I don't want to talk about the ones that you are responsible for.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's just the council's fault, the problems in Belfast. Yes, so I'm planning, looking globally, because in many ways Belfast was a world leader in certain areas in previous decades, and there's no reason why we can't be from now on. The focus of the summit is very clear. We want Belfast to be one of the best small cities in Europe to live, work and visit. And that has to work for everybody, not just visitors, not just workers, but also the people that live here.
Catherine, talk to me about the link between planning and safety. And I'm thinking particularly, we talk a lot about the safety of women, and I think they have a unique experience versus men in our environments at night particularly. What is the connection between those, and what are the lessons to learn?
Oh my God, the connections are that you can consciously or unconsciously support and foster safety or not when you plan a street, when you plan a park, when you plan the size and the type of buildings in a city. So it's all about safety.
For example?
Safety is best done when you have people in the street, because then you have what we call the eye on the street phenomenon. If you don't have people in the street, then anything can happen. Lighting is a feature of safety. If it's dark, people can imagine anything, and women certainly will feel insecure about that. So the walking, the speed of cars in the city also is going to affect the sense of safety for children. We talked about that this morning. How do we educate children and to not feel insecure and unaccepted and welcome in cities? Right now, we don't think of that because we never have them in planning committees, for example. And we build playground and we wonder why no one is in there, because they are used by other types of people. And you think that playground would be where children actually learn to enjoy and to discover their city neighborhood and learn also to navigate in the city. So lighting, the size of the city, of the street equipment, whether you have bicycle or not, all of those things can make people feel welcome and feel secured or not.
How familiar are you with the problems in Belfast? Have you had a chance?
Not familiar at all.
Okay. But then broadly, is there a common mistake that you see around the world that you believe can be fixed relatively easily, but people don't seem to realise that?
There are a number of common mistakes, but one is the fact that we've accepted urban sprawling, and that's why...
What do you mean by urban sprawling?
The extension of cities outside of the city core, where initially cities started, and this is caused by the car, because once you have a car, you can start thinking, I can live someplace and work someplace else, because I'll be driving. But guess what? Millions of people are thinking that way. So you have this ideal dream of having your own house, your own garden outside of...
It's the suburbs.
It's the suburb, urban sprawl. And that is creating basically climate issues. And we see the fires, we see the flooding, because you've expanded the city, and that's where all of this starts.
What's the alternative to the suburbs and getting everyone back in?
Well, it's actually to not just create suburbs where you have homes with no service. It's suburbs where you have schools, public service, a medical
hubs,
facility. It's
called.
There's a technical term for that in planning. It's called polycentric organization. You have multiple centers, polycentric. They are connected, and they are interconnected by public transportation, because the best way to actually organize that network is public transportation that's affordable, so people will use that versus driving their car, creating traffic congestion and supporting the terrible climate consequences. And also isolating people, because it's very different to be driving your car alone in your little cockpit, being sharing transportation in a public transportation, or walking or cycling, where you are going to meet Ariel and Gall and actually develop social bonds, and that's the community.
Ariel, when I think of New York and what they've done over the last number of decades and how the city has been cleaned up massively, I think of the expression broken window theory, which was popularised, I think, in your city in the 90s. This idea that if you look after the small stuff, the big stuff will eventually look after itself, but people will take more pride in where they live. And it seems, I think, you may disagree with me, to have worked in New York. Do you think there is value to that approach elsewhere, that if we just start to look after the little things, people take more pride, crime goes down?
Yes, I mean, I think it's important to always look at the little things and also to have a vision of the big picture. I think also the broken windows theory tended to also create some over enforcement where that was not necessarily the most productive and supportive approach for small businesses, especially in nightlife, that if you have one thing wrong, you must be a bad operator and therefore you must be enforced and restricted. I think the approach of understanding nightlife, especially through the Office of Nightlife, is more about seeing it about as life at night rather than just a nightlife issue, and understanding the connectivity and how the ecosystem works in order to support life at night, having multi-agency support, communication through the police, fire, health, buildings, transportation, addressing quality of life issues around sound complaints from neighbors. Most enforcement is complaint driven. And are those complaints justified? Are they weaponizing complaint systems? And seeing the businesses at night and the people that enjoy going out at night and working at night as assets to the overall society rather than some otherness, and not just using daytime strategies to address challenges at night. There are unique challenges, whether it be lighting, whether it be safety, quality of life, sanitation, and transportation, that supports the nighttime businesses and workers and culture in a way that is respectful. Rather than punishing and controlling.
Yeah, it sounds you're talking about parity of esteem, to coin a phrase that's been used in this neck of the woods. It's about seeing it as something different but equally valuable at night.
Yes.
Carl, do you find this incredibly energising at the council? These ideas come flushing in and it'll keep you occupied for the next year?
Yeah, I do. I think that the ideas are there. The problem with ideas is their implementation, Declan. I think we have a local government system which probably doesn't, we've seen before Christmas, the traffic problems were nothing to do with the council and there was nothing really they could do to stop them. So there's an accountability gap. And then we have 60 councillors making decisions on absolutely everything. It's almost like a government by committee or local government by committee, which is a problem. But I'm inspired by today, and I'm inspired by the commitment and energy of organisations in Belfast that are spending hundreds of millions of pounds to try and make our city better. Nothing can be done if the budget doesn't stack up, and the potential there, as Catherine says, and Ariel, you've got to create business models that work for those that own buildings, developers, because otherwise things are just going to sit and stand the way they have been doing in certain parts of the city now for 20 years. So yeah, the ideas are there. The challenge is the implementation. But as one of our speakers said earlier, it's not beyond the wit of humans. We had Gavin White from Manchester in 1990. Manchester had 500 residential units in its city centre, and now it has over 60,000. So that's a remarkable turnaround for a city.
It is, yeah. And that's a city you can feel it in Ulster over the last decade.
There's no question.
Space, yeah.
But it's people who did it. It's not some magic formula that we've got to dream up. They just decided to get together and improve their city.
Thanks so much. I could talk to you for much longer. I'm afraid we're approaching the news, but we're grateful. I hope you enjoy your time in Belfast. Catherine, as I say, yours might be a little longer than you expected, but we hope you get back to Paris safely. That's Ariel Palitz from New York, Catherine Gall from Paris, and Councillor Carl White from our own City Council here in Belfast.